Happy Friday!
Yeah.
It's Friday, right?
It's Friday, man.
It's Friday in Atlanta.
It's Friday, baby. We're out of here.
Friday in Atlanta. What's been going on?
Just
the chat. We need some help in the chat.
Oh, yep.
Like the Super Bowl, very similar to the Super Bowl. We're giving away Amazon money. All you need to do, we made this so simple. We created our own March Madness brackets. Pick the winner of the men's tournament and the women's tournament, post it in the chat, and you got an opportunity to win a whole bunch of Amazon gift cards. You have an advantage over the folks that we did the residential broadcast yesterday.
Yep.
And 4 teams got eliminated last night. So your odds should be better, right? You won't pick one of them losers. So post it up there in the chat.
Come on,
I'm
man.
all in with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish ladies.
I'm with you on that.
And I'm leaning into Michigan. I'm not gonna pick the chalk. I'm gonna go with the 2 seed. I'm going with Michigan State to sneak up there with Izzo, maybe get him his last title going out there. So I like Michigan State. How about you?
I pick Alabama because I like saying Roll Tide. Crimson Tide.
Well,
Roll Tide.
Speaking
Roll
of
Tide.
Alabama, I know you don't know nothing about basketball, but they played last night.
Did they do well?
They ran their opponents right out the gym.
Did they?
They scored like 111 points or something and
Let's see.
made a whole bunch of threes.
Steve says men Duke. Derek says Notre Dame with the ladies as well. Florida for the men.
Nice.
Michael says again Carolina. Catherine. Nikki.
Oh, she's with you with Alabama. You got to pick the other one too. We need them both. You got to pick both brackets.
Uhler's going
Both
with
brackets.
Alabama.
Ooh, Steve Hudson going with USC.
Catherine's with me.
They lost their best player.
Who?
USC. They like one of the best women in the country.
Really?
She went down like, I think it was an ACL. It was horrible. Just in the last
Lord,
round.
not that. That's horrible.
That is
that
I
is
don't know
horrible.
how they're going to do.
Duke man.
Duke.
Shane says, yeah, Duke man. UConn.
Shane Clevin sent me a note after the broadcast.
Shane's got issues, but go ahead.
No, he's retired.
Yeah, he's got issues.
Shane, I don't get it.
He's got, by the way, just because he's retired doesn't mean he doesn't have issues. The boy has retired issues. It doesn't matter.
He didn't mean none of that, Shane.
By the way.
No, man, give me a call after the broadcast, Shane. I want to catch up.
I see Gary. Is that Gary Katz? Gary Katz.
Gary
Big
Katz.
thumbs up right there.
There's Michael Edwards, one of them leaders out there on the West Coast.
I think this is one of my new favorite names. I got a new favorite name.
Who?
Cassie Hondenberg. She looks bored.
No,
like,
she
I'm
does
just
look
bored
bored.
right here.
She does look bored.
These two guys just bore me.
Just hanging out.
We'll try to be better, yeah.
Mr. Gortat up there in Michigan. What's happening, my man? How you doing?
Sardinsky, he never smiles. What'd you do? Take his paycheck away?
He lives out there in like paradise. He lives in Phoenix.
Does he?
He's out there in the beautiful sunshine.
He's done.
I don't know. There's Dennis Ganser. I saw him at President's Club.
Is that Angel Berra? Is that the last name? Did I get that right, Angel? Did I mess that up?
Give her a thumbs up.
Angel's like, yeah, whatever, Victor. Just
Who
move
else?
on. On to the next
There's
square. Everybody's so serious on this thing.
There's the 2 Dereks, Derek Kennedy and Derek Dixon, brothers from other mothers.
Yeah. You were telling me something about Brian Zach. What was that?
Nothing. What, you're making stuff up now?
I'm just telling you, Brian. Brian, he was in my ear about you.
He's making stuff up.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you might get the call, Brian.
You get me in enough trouble already. There's Jeff Mossinger. He's leading the troops out there. What's happening? All right, so what have you been doing?
Traveling.
No, you wrote a book. Show them your book.
I wrote a book. This is called The Future of Selling. So this book is about AI and what's happening for the future of AI. It's a really good book. If you are not really sure about AI and you want to dip your toe in digital AI waters to find out where sales is going, I recommend the book. We've been using AI tools now. Like I said, we recommend Notebook, a couple other tools.
Notebook LM.
And so more and more people are using it. I don't think we realize how, I tell people we have linear thinking with exponential technology. One of the numbers I heard last week was that the intelligence on these LLMs, these large language models, is doubling now every 6 months.
How about that?
So they're becoming, just incredible. I was playing with ChatGPT's visual image generated this morning.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff it does, Ed, we're going to get to a point where you can just type in something that's going to create a movie for you.
Yeah.
It's that fast. And so I think not only just in the cool stuff, but in the medical field, in all these different domains, you're starting to see these changes.
So it's funny, the RSMs in the commercial division have their own kind of group me thing, right?
Yeah.
And Michael Edwards and Derek and the Dereks and all them guys, they're posting AI generated sales totals at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I just look at them for pure entertainment value.
Yeah.
They're
awesome.
doing different things. Just crazy good, and they're just grasping it. The other thing I would say about this too is that as I'm traveling around, right, you're hearing it, right? You're hearing our people using these tools. And what's always amazing to me, it's the high posts. It's the folks that are already killing it that are deep into this. The Albert Leishlaters of the world, right? He's really the first guy that aggressively got after AI here. The Jason Sayers on the termite side. These are the guys that are all in as I'm traveling around the country. and having a chance to spend some time with them at the President's Club or one of these 17 kickoffs that I've gone to.
You've traveled a lot. You've traveled a lot.
You're seeing these people just getting after it, right? And really starting to use some of these tools.
Yeah.
Again, I recommend the book. I've got about 10 or 20 of them coming to my house. Got 10 there, I think, already. Shoot me a nice note while you want one, and maybe I'll send you one. So.
Can I suggest that we talked about Notebook LM.
Yes.
I'm going to suggest a topic for you. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at it's called Google Notebook LM. Okay, just type in Google Notebook LM. It's free. And here's what you can do. I did this with the Hayward Pool Company. What I did was I uploaded their variable speed motor, variable pump motor that they had, right? And it's the manual. So it's, I don't know, 200 pages, let's say. When you upload it, I'll say the AI you can talk to the manual. In other words, you can ask a question about what's in the manual. And then the third thing you can do is you can actually create a podcast about the manual. Yeah, it creates a podcast. In other words, it'll have two people talking about this wonderful pump. So how can you use it? Think of a product that you're not comfortable with. Find the PDF files, upload them. Then you'll be able to chat with the manual, so to speak, ask it questions, or you can create a podcast by hitting a button, and two people will begin chatting about that product. And you can download the audio and you can check it out in your car and listen to it.
I mean, you think about all the programs and all the services that we're offering. Like today, I mean, the world's changed. It seems like we're launching a new service commercially like every couple months, right? You know, and talking about like this Bell sensing devices, right? So what if you dumped that manual into there? You dumped all their PDFs into there, and you just said, how do I best position this as a salesperson? And it will spit out a podcast for you. And again, it's all free. My Notebook LM, we were talking about it today. I got like 50 things in it already, right?
I do too.
You just dump everything into it. If you're a manager and you're training new salespeople and you're practicing pitches, you're doing live role plays, just record the voice audio on it, dump it into Notebook LM, and it will spit back a podcast that says, man, Derek did this really well, and he could have done this a little bit different. I mean, we've got our best people doing it. Jason Sire is the guy I always fall back on. The day after we talked about Notebook LM on our residential broadcast a couple of months ago, he was into it that Friday morning, called me up like a kid that was giddy. This dude is a 20-year President's Club member, already locked and loaded, and he's just aggressively curious, wanting to know more.
Yeah, I want to add this note because this is a really interesting tip. And you know this already. Once it creates the podcast of two people talking about the notebook, you can actually interrupt the podcast as the two people are talking about it, and it'll say, oh, it's Ed. He has a question. And it'll integrate that into the podcast. That's amazing. Anyway,
and if you spend any time in podcasts, it's the same man and the same woman voices that you hear from other people putting podcasts out there. So everybody's generating podcasts off of this. That's what I found unusual. Like some of the podcasts I listen to, you know, that I
have those voices,
have those same voices. So it's you can't tell it's AI generated.
But check it out. It's a great tool.
Yeah, amen. What else?
That's it. Just travel.
So I went to President's Club. I got my President's Club tie on. Victor made fun of it, but it's pretty cool.
I actually like the tie. I like the blue and the pink flamingos. As they put the logo off to the side, it just looks. I'm OCD about stuff like that. They just messed up on the logo.
All right, now you're going to get me in trouble again with the people that designed the tie, right? So why do you do this to me? No, so just to share a couple of things that from that trip, right? Obviously a phenomenal trip. They got the pink flamingos on here because the folks that were there had a chance to like have an experience with the pink flamingos at Baja Mar, which was crazy expensive. It was a beautiful place.
Didn't you get yelled at for saying that?
I got yelled at. So I'm just going to share this with you. I haven't learned my lesson. But I remember like 30 years ago, I was in a branch manager meeting, and the branch manager walked in, didn't say a word, Victor. She just walked in. She had a tube of toothpaste, and she squeezed it all out of the tube and put it on the table. And she said, try to get that back into the tube. Nobody could do that. She said, that's what happens with your words. You get them out there, you can't get them back in. So, I had like a 9-minute talk. I introduced the Chairman's Club winners. And I got to the chairman of the Chairman's Club, and they got a little extra money. And I simply said, creating problems for myself, I said, you're going to need all that extra money for how expensive this place is. And boy, I got chastised for that. So
by the way,
you're not the only guy that gets in trouble.
Adam said I had to mortgage my kidney after that trip.
There you go.
That's cool. It's expensive.
Adam had a good
beautiful
time.
Place, but expensive.
Oh, crazy good.
I mean, in all of the Caribbean, it's the best place I've ever been to.
Yeah.
All the Caribbean, that's the best place I've been to.
The highlight for me, and it was really based on a recommendation from you. The last couple of years, they've given me the opportunity to kind of help pick the speaker. Because I'm just into the YouTube stuff and trying to figure all this out. And we settled on Kevin Brown, and it was really based on your recommendation when you saw him present. And just talk about the experience you had with him, and I'll tell the folks what's going to happen for them.
So Kevin Brown is a speaker. When I go to listen to speakers, I'm that guy that has a hard time listening to speakers because I'm always looking for mechanics, storytelling, interaction, the whole bit. And when I hear something that sounds canned, it's just like tune out. I was telling Ed, sometimes I only last like 5 minutes in a room before I walk out when I hear a speaker. Kevin, from the beginning to the end, is like 45 minutes of, when it flew like that, his storytelling, his dry sense of humor, but the messages in his speech, and it's not rah-rah. This is like one of the most powerful speakers I've ever seen. And the most interesting thing about him, he's like Simon Sinek. They stand and they deliver. And you're like, there's no body movement, nothing. And I put him at that level with Simon Sinek.
No slides, not a single slide. And I'll just kind of share a little bit more with you. Chris Pierce, who's been to 37 President's Clubs, said bar none, the best one we've ever had. And I would agree. There is stuff that he said that day that just I can't get out of my head.
Yeah.
When I look at my wife, I look at my kids. It's just stuff that he planted me to make sure I'm right there.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do for you, we're working through the final negotiations. We have that recorded. We don't have the authority to release it yet, but we're going to get that from Kevin, and then we're going to share it with it. I think it's that valuable.
Yes.
45, 50 minutes
I agree.
of pure gold.
Oh,
and if anybody was there, just throw it up there.
By the way, can I brag?
Yeah, brag.
Kevin knew me when he first met me.
He did. He told me that.
He goes, "You're Victor Antonio." I go, "Yes, I am."
Yeah, look at you fanboying yourself.
That's right. I'm totally fanboying
Yes,
myself.
I am.
By the way, but like I said, one of the best speeches. I also recommended the guy, the Iron Cowboy. I think
maybe next year.
The Iron Cowboy is
Amen. We were everybody, literally senior executives in the front row, tears coming down their faces.
He's a great speaker.
Tears coming down their faces. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. The cool thing about him too is that every second that I thought I was just going to burst into blah, just crying my eyes out, he shot a little humor in there.
Yeah.
And he just took the pressure off.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm not going to cry now. I'm not going to cry now.
Yeah, but you want to be clear. It's not a sad speech.
No.
Like, it's not a tear-jerking speech.
No.
That's not what it is. There's just so many great stories in there and so many lessons to take away that there's some emotional stuff in there occasionally. And so he has to release it with a sense of humor.
So if that didn't create enough anticipation, I got work to do. I got to make sure we can get this to you. Let's jump into some numbers and let's get moving on this broadcast. So commercial sales in February. Actually, commercial sales for the first couple months of this year have not been up to our Orkin commercial sales standards. I'll just leave it at that. We're running, for the month of February, with local commercial sales company-wide, a 2% sales increase. Year to date, we're only up about 3%. Be mindful of the fact that probably since COVID, we've been running double-digit, pretty steady every month, month in, month out, and certainly for the year's period. Team sales were only up 16%. For the month of February, only up 16%. Victor's going to chastise me for that. We're up 14% year to date on team sales. But again, you measure that up against what we've been historically doing for the last 4 or 5 years. We're well above the 20s there. So we got to pick that piece up. So our total commercial sales for the first 2 months of February are only up 4% year over year, which is, as Victor always says, he says, hey, you're talking about 4% increase like it's nothing, right? But it's something.
Yeah, it's 4% of a very big number.
Yeah,
it's a very big number. So kudos to these people.
But here's the good news. You are all just screaming. We had a couple days left in March, right? Just screaming. March. We're going to catch up a lot of ground on these numbers. We're going to run excesses well above 10%. We got some national account sales that are just going to blow the roof off of this. A lot of team sale activity. So we're going to catch up. We're going to make up a lot of that ground that in my mind, we've slipped a little bit. So we'll get after that. The good news about all the stuff that we've been doing and the stuff that we've been able to accomplish over the last few years is we have this, I call it like the machine. It's like a snowball, right? It's called this recurring revenue. Most of the business that these folks sell is repetitive, right? They keep coming.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the customer
it's a beautiful
keeps paying.
thing. Yeah.
They very rarely do we get cancellations. Our commercial cancellation rate across the country is less than 1%. So we get them on board, they stay, that just keeps growing, that snowball.
That is just an incredible number.
Isn't it?
That is an incredible number. That means we're selling to the right people and we're servicing them correctly.
And we're servicing the daylights out. The pros are just delivering the goods, right?
Nice.
Just getting after it.
That's amazing.
So the cool thing about that is you get all that revenue built up into that machine and it's cranking out, profit comes, right? So even when we had what I consider to be a slight miss for the first couple of months, we are still well above profit plan.
True temperature.
Yes.
Pat.
Yes. Pat.
How's Pat doing?
Pat's all thumbs up.
All right, that's all right.
He's all thumbs up. So
good job, people. Good
amen.
job, folks.
So keep after it.
Great numbers.
Victor, in addition to those kind of numbers for February, we did have, in fact, in the shortest month of the year, the shortest selling month of the year in February, we had 12 of our account managers cross that $75,000 paid on barrier. You know, so what should we do?
I think we should roll the video.
Let's roll the video.
Let's do it.
So the March Madness kind of theme, Victor, right? We got it going on there?
Yeah.
Remember, you can still post. We're going to let this thing run all the way out. So if
Yep.
you're trying to calculate your bracket, post your 2 winners in that chat. But how about my man, Eric Dozier out of Fresno, California?
I got a nickname for him.
What is it?
The Bull.
Why
Get
the Bull?
it, Eric? The Bulldozer?
Oh, man.
Yes.
You better keep your day job.
Get it?
Hey, I saw Kevin Tinsley down here in Atlanta yesterday. Come walking through. Kevin's the newly crowned region. Crowned? That's not a good word.
Yeah.
But the newly appointed.
The newly minted.
Yeah, the newly minted region manager for Eric's region
Yeah.
out there. I said, what the heck did he sell? Right?
Yeah.
Because I had no insight into it.
Yeah.
And what's cool about it, he sold a really big bird job.
Yeah,
And
like Sesame Street, Big
no,
Bird?
not like Sesame Street Big Bird. He sold a very sizable bird job that was, obviously not all that 160,000, but over 100 grand worth of bird work collectively. Some netting, some pucks, a whole bunch of stuff, some deterrents, those kind of things. And what's really cool about that is that the next commercial session, the next commercial campaign that they're launching next month is going to be focused on how to get better at selling bird work.
Nice.
It's a space that we have in our portfolio that we don't do a great job of it everywhere. There are markets, there are branches that slay it, but there's so much opportunity. So some of that education piece that's going to come out in that next campaign is going to be focused on bird work. And my gosh, there's an example of it right there.
So do you have more detail on that? Like, what was the facility? What was the situation?
I don't really have it other than I just asked Kevin, what was it all about? And I said, was it this? Was it that? He said it was just really a solution built on using all of the services that we could put in there. Right? Netting, like I said, deterrents, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Marketing, get on it. Case study for that. Would that be interesting, right?
Amen. That might be good. That might be good. And then, of course, coming in number 2, the GOAT, Chris Pierce. He just seems to always show up there.
Pierce, nice.
I do want to stop and tell one story about Chris because I think it was really cool. At my table during the dinner after the award ceremony of the President's Club deal, I had Chris Pierce. Chris Pierce, 37 wins. I also had a rookie, a termite salesman rookie at my table, Dennis Lopez out of Austin, Texas. And so you got the guy that won for the very first time with his spouse, and you got Chris who's been there 37 times with his spouse. And all I did was they were on either side of me. I just stepped away, backed away from the table, left the table, and said, "Can you two guys chat?" And Chris was just super good about engaging this young guy. And I mean, you can see him. He's standing there, he's like stars in his eyes, right? I mean, this is like
I'm talking to the goat.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the goat.
But he's so humble about it, and that's what I love about Chris and his wife Wendy. They're very unassuming,
Very nice.
and he treated Dennis so cool. I just wanted to shout that out. I don't know why I did.
That's good.
Who else you see on the list? There's that Civittoni guy. Civittoni got the big plaque at President's Club.
Did he?
Yeah, he's the numero uno. He's the big dog.
Love that.
Isn't that Rios?
We got Rios,
Yeah, who else?
Rivera, Gorecki, Atlanta. Got to give a shout out to the Atlanta guy here.
Amen. Yeah.
And then I was disappointed with Albert.
Oh my God, you're what?
Because Albert should, I'm going to call his mother. Denisha?
Yeah.
And just say, what's wrong with your son? I mean, I expect more from Albert, is what I'm saying. He's probably listening to this going.
He and I had a great conversation about you.
Oh, did he?
At President's Club.
Oh, Lord.
And then how much he does truly enjoy you, and the podcast that you did with him. But Victor, I would just remind you that Albert came in 12th out of 554 account managers.
Nice.
So that ain't too bad.
That was all right.
Who else?
And
Dennis Ganser. There's Dennis Ganser.
By the way, before I forget, those podcasts we did, we got to remind the folks that, again, some of those conversations we had with Albert and some of the other folks, just great podcasts. So if you haven't listened to them, you should listen to them.
They just got resent today.
Did they? Okay,
the commercial ones just got resent today.
The Albert interview is a very good interview. Check that out.
Yeah, I mean, just some folks there. A couple newer names. Clark Ferguson, he's out of Springfield, Springfield, Missouri. I almost say Springfield, Illinois. I had a chance to kind of kick it around with him a little bit. Again, a little bit of some bird work in there as well, knowing a little bit about that business. But again, 12 out of 500 plus.
Any first timers on this list? Did you point out any first timers?
Clark is probably a first timer. Michael Rivera out of Denver, I believe, is first. I talked to Dave Gore about him. Dave said he's an up and comer. So congratulations to him.
What do you do for a first timer on the list?
We don't do anything, Victor. If they hit the list, they get a $100 Amazon gift card. If you're number one, Eric the bulldozer. Oh, was that weak?
Yeah.
Is going to get a card for $500. So fair enough.
I don't know. I think if you're the first time on there, you should get something. I'm just saying.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Stop spending my money.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about some content. And I really want to base it on, I guess, the 17 kickoff meetings that I've attended. I think I got 25 flight segments in already over the past kind of 2 months. You know, after January, after the region leadership meeting, I've been on the road. I've a couple of kickoff meetings every week, and was up in Columbus this week as well. We're going to talk about that later, but. Through my travels, my messaging has changed. You know, I used to talk about tactics all the time when I got a chance to get up in front of folks, and I scrapped it this year. I scrapped it for one reason, that Jerry Galoff's messaging at the region leadership meeting, the RLM, was how to get better, right? How to get better. Maybe not necessarily bigger, but how to get better. He's got this vision of 2027, we're going to be to $5 billion. We're going to need 500 more managers. Wow. But I took away from that meeting getting better. So rather than come in with tactics, I've got a whole YouTube channel. I got 200 videos on YouTube that talk about tactics. I've taken the approach to talk to the folks about how we collectively can get better. Right. Because if we get better, we know we're going to get bigger. So really what it came down to was just trying to figure out how we can get better. Right. So I focused on three things. I focused on getting incredibly curious, right? Focused on having self-awareness, and I focused on investing in themselves. So as I'm traveling around, meeting with some of the RSMs, and particularly this week, I was in the Midwest East commercial kickoff meeting up in Columbus, and we started talking about bundling, and we're doing really good with bundling, and we're getting better and better and better at it, but there still is this hesitancy to bundle, and I think it's rooted in a couple of things. I think it's the nature of the business that they're in. Right? We're in a takeaway business commercially. These folks hardly get any leads. We're trying to take business away from somebody that already has pest control. And we know one thing. We got to knock out the current vendor, and we're going to ask them for more money because we're Orkin, right? So I think there's some hesitancy to do that, you know, to really throw the whole bundle out there where we're trying to just piece off the GPC and go get the rest of it later. But I think one of the other, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because we've spent a bunch of time on this, I think the other hesitancy to bundle is not having a good grasp of the products and the services, right? When you think about all the services that we've launched in the last 2 years, all the different things, the scent services, some of this bird stuff, it's all fresh and new. And I knew as a sales guy that if I didn't understand the product and didn't have the confidence to pitch it, I certainly would never come off as competent. So I would not pitch it. So when we look at the DSARs and we look at the sales modules, we see all these gaps where like this guy's not pitching fly, or this gal's not pitching fly, she hasn't pitched any exclusion. So you look for that, and I think a lot of that is the knowledge piece of it. So again, that's where that curiosity kicks in. Throw some of these products you're not familiar with, like Victor said, into Notebook LM and get yourself better. But I think, so that's one, you don't understand it. I think the biggest one is fear. Is fear. Fear of, you know, messing up the deal because you're asking for too much money, right?
I want to ask you, you said three things. We didn't touch on this before. So you said the second one was awareness. What did you mean by that?
Well, just awareness of the products, understanding the products.
That was
kind
just
of tying into that product knowledge and that product competency that you have to be really effective. I think that's it. But again, I think the biggest one is the price consciousness that runs around in the back of our head when we know we're trying to take somebody away from Terminex or Ecolab, and we know we got to get $175 a month where they're only paying $100. So rather than do the right thing and pull it all together and pitch them $450 worth of services by loading the bundle up based on the conditions conducive, right, that they need, we just kind of have that apprehension, maybe is a better word. Like I said, I don't want to paint this with the wide brush and say we're not bundling. But when you look at the numbers, I mean, the guys up in Midwest, Michael Krause and Mike Palermo, we were up there this week, and they said less than 40% of their proposals include fly service. And I'm like, how can that be? You know, that's got to be. So let's talk a little bit about the mindset of options, serving up customers' options. Let's kick that around a bit.
Let's start here because I think this is a good point, and that is that too often we think we're being too salesy when we're presenting a lot of options. So your brain typically says, well, I don't want to present for several reasons. One, you're afraid. Two, they may say no. You don't want to get the rejection, so you hold back. Or maybe you say, you know, I'll just present this, as you say, just to win the initial deal, the GPC,
Foot in the door.
and come back later. But you have to remind yourself that remove the word selling from your vocabulary for a moment and just say, I've walked through this facility, this building. I know what the customer needs. My job is to present, and that's the key word here, is to present all the options we have available that I know you need based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
So we're not selling a lot of options, we're presenting what I believe you need. Not what I think I want to sell you, what I believe you need. And I think when you kind of shift your mindset that way, you sell differently because you're not selling to sell, you're selling to help. Big difference.
Amen. And I think that some of the coaching that we fail to drive to the account managers that we use all the time with our Orkin pros, just show them some solutions. Show them stuff you can fix. You don't need to sell anything. Just present the solutions. I think that's part of it. And I think one of the other, there's a whole bunch of pieces to this. And I think one of it, let's talk about time spent, because we hammered that home yesterday.
Yes.
And I think that's a big deal. I think oftentimes when you're pitching bundles, if you spend 15, 20 minutes in there walking around a place and you come back with 6 services, there's no validity to that, right? You know, you talk about a little bit about, compare it to the pool company.
Well, Tim Tarantello said something interesting. We were talking during the break that he says when you're in there for a short period of time, you've commoditized the relationship and you made it very transactional. So I was speaking to Hayward Pool Company, sells a lot of pool equipment, and it was really interesting when we asked about the close percentages as versus time spent. And so those who were only spending 45 minutes talking about a pool design, so they're going through all the options, and we're looking at $150,000 to $300,000 deals. What I found is just doing my informal survey, asking the group, if they spend about 45 minutes with the customer, they would close at about 20%. If they spend 2 hours or 2 hours plus, it was closer to 60%. Which means that once you get in there and you start understanding everything, you build that relationship, all of a sudden you're going to have a higher close rate. But the psychology behind it is twofold. One is they get to know you, you build trust, you build value. Got that. But number 2 is that if I just spend 2, maybe 3 hours with you, I don't want to do it again. That's called sunk cost. And so the more time you spend with them, the less likely they are to want to do it again with a competitor. So keep that in mind that there's a relationship there, Ed.
Yeah, and I think sometimes our account managers get so hammered with need you to bundle more, need you to bundle more, need you to bundle more. So they shortstop themselves by maybe not doing that lengthy inspection. You guys know my take on a commercial inspection. First place you ask to go is how do I get to the roof? And they look at you like you're speaking in a foreign tongue. Well, nobody else has ever gone up there. I got you halfway home, baby. You're coming with me. But the other thing I've always coached people to do is to spend double the time on your inspection that the current technician is spending servicing the account. And that way, when you come back, you've got all these, you spent that time, you sunk that time, you got the pictures, you got the graph, you got it all together to where when you start talking, they believe you. It's not like you just whizzed your way through the inspection and you showed back up with 5 services you want to pitch. How can you pitch me 5 services when you spent like an hour?
But
15 minutes.
You brought up something, I think it was yesterday, and I think it's important that when I spend more time there, I find more things.
Absolutely.
If I find more things, when I do the present out, when I present out, the first thing that's going to trigger the potential buyer is they're going, why didn't my existing provider bring this thing up? In other words, I care more about your business. I'm looking at everything. And so we need to use that. You want to add to that?
Well, and that's the leverage you get when you're talking to potential customers. You have worked your tail off to get this appointment. Again, these folks don't get a bunch of leads. Our commercial account managers, they don't get that funnel. They don't get folks calling in all the time. They get so few leads. Most of all their business, 80% of their business is self-generated. So they've worked their tail off to get in, to get this opportunity to go in and kick the tires. My gosh, don't sell yourself short. Kick every tire in the joint, right? Build your case.
If you were to analyze, like, how much time did it take you to get that meeting? Like, how much time did it take you?
Probably forever, right?
Let's say 3, 4, 5 hours to get the meeting. So if it took me 3 to 4, 5 hours, and by the way, I'm including calling, emailing, and then driving to the location, having to drive back from the location. I include all of that. That's a 5-hour commitment on my side, investment. So therefore, if I'm there, I'm going to do everything I can to try to get the deal. If I got to stay there longer, I'll do that, and not just make it a quick in and out.
Amen. That slow down to speed up, right? I mean, just that mindset. I wish I could just like slap every account manager walking into a business like, slow it down, baby. slow it down, take your time, get the stuff that's going to give you the opportunity to sell against who's in there.
Yeah, it's funny because some people on this broadcast might go, I know that. I said, yeah, but are you practicing it? And that's usually the disconnect sometimes. We know it, but we don't execute on it.
Yeah. And the other thing I think that when you get these chances to dance with these creative appointments is you create separation by putting it all out, right? I mean, you can't compete. And I'll use Sire again as an example. He said, I can't compete. Turn my job to turn my job to turn my job. Terminex will be cheaper. Massey will be cheaper if I'm just selling a termite job. How I create separation is by solving all the issues, presenting all the issues. So you're way better off if you worked your tail off so hard to get that appointment, to spin it all, to show separation, certainly based on what you've done, based on your pictures, based on your graph, but to show all the solutions, all the things that can benefit them. And if you think that I kind of chastised the folks up in Ohio a little bit. I said, how could you not be pitching fly control on every call right now? Yeah, there's no flies. It was snowing yesterday morning. There's no flies in the buildings now. But why not say, hey, let's get ahead of this. They're coming. We all know they're coming. We're a month or two away from that. Don't let this become a reactive treatment. Let's get proactive. Let's keep them out of here so my pro Tim doesn't have to chase this stuff down and try to fix an issue that's already creating a problem with your guests, right? So think about putting it all together, putting it all out there. I'm just looking through my notes. It's funny, there was one young fella up there that's had been here maybe a year or two, really starting to get after it. I'm guessing he'll be one of them cats at President's Club next year. This is Zach Pulecki. And I'm sitting there in the back and I'm listening to him talk and I'm sitting next to Scott Weaver and I said, that dude is intense and he's a thinker. And I said, so here's what he said, which was like magical. You learn something every day if you do this right. If you live your life right, you learn something every day. He said that he has a minimum service package that he gives every customer. He said, Mr. Victor, this is the minimum service package I can start with to protect your property the way it needs to be protected. And that, folks, has fly control, small and large, built into it already. It's already baked. He goes to the customer and says, this is what you have to buy.
Yeah. And by the way, the preamble to that is based on what I've discovered. Yeah. This is the minimum package. I love that.
And then he's got other things he's got tacked onto it. And again, we talk about the triple cheeseburgers and the bundles. It's amazing what happens if you pitch all of it. Oftentimes, they ink all of it, right? I've been waiting for a solution about that. We did have a problem with mosquitoes last year. You think about what's going on in the world right now, what's going on with mosquitoes. Look no further than Jordan Bosmany, one of the top sailors in the company. You hear his story about his son getting West Nile and the hospital stuff that they went through, where his son literally couldn't speak. He couldn't speak. He talked in tongues, and it took they worked through that over a few months. At Johns Hopkins University to get him healthy. I mean, luckily he's good now, but that kind of stuff is real out there. How could you not today be adding mosquito and adding fly control to all of your offerings? Again, you've worked so hard. It might be the one thing they say, your general pest control, the other guys don't offer mosquito. Come on in, baby.
Yep.
I'm reeling you in.
By the way,
put something in the chat.
By the way, Zach says it's called his required service package.
Oh, Zach is on there. Okay, cool.
Good job.
Yeah, you blew me away, Zach, so I stole your stuff, brother.
But I want to emphasize your phrase, which bundling equals separation.
Yeah.
In other words, you separate from your customer when you start bundling things.
You can't compete on price here at Orca, and you're in the wrong chair if you think you're going to win business on price. Yep. And you're not going to win it on your smile. You're not going to win it on your charm. Maybe a little bit, but you're going to win it by separating yourself with offerings. What else you see?
A lot of iPhones, no name. So creating customized solution for potential customers builds value, differentiates from the competition.
Great answer.
Solution must include some of the bundle. In other words, just bundle. And again, you're not selling it, you're presenting it. Let them say no.
Yeah.
Let them say no. Too often we say no to ourselves before we even present it because we think they're going to say no.
And if we're pitching services and not tying it back, we're just pitching services.
Yep.
You want them to say, what do you recommend, Victor? Well, I think, like Zach, you start here.
And the data shows, it supports that people want you to recommend something.
Yeah.
That's important.
Absolutely. What else?
That's it.
So I got a lengthy housekeeping list. I'm going to start right here.
Okay.
All right. So I was at dinner last night. And you folks that know this young lady, you need to pick up the phone, shoot her an email, talk to her. Phyllis Ivey, the rock star, the basis of national accounts, is retiring after 34 years. And she told me not to do this. She said, "Don't you dare talk about me on that broadcast."
Do it, Ed.
And I loved it. She sent me notes in Teams. She said, "You rat, you shouldn't. You told me not to do this. I told you not to do this. But if you know her, shoot a note to her. She's going to be gone next 3 or 4 days." She said, "Ed, you realize it's month-end close. I can't be dealing with all these. God, right? Just soldier to the end."
By the way, can we do something, Ed?
What?
By the way, if you know Phyllis, right?
Yeah.
Write your note in the chat.
Yeah.
Whatever message you have for in the chat, and then Ed will get that chat to her.
Absolutely. Or just hit her up yourself. Send her an email, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
She's already getting wore out. She said, "I got like 100 emails from the first broadcast." So,
Very cool.
And I'm just laughing and loving it.
That's beautiful.
Here's something. I had a conversation with her last night, and as many of you know, I'm contemplating. Well, I am retiring next year. Right? I got 1 more year, so don't get that mistaken. But I'm thinking about like what I'm going to do, and people, "What are you going to do when you retire? What are you going to do when you retire?" She made me feel about this big. When I looked at her, I said, "Phyllis, what are you going to do when you retire?" Again, I felt about this big when she hit me with her answer. She said, "Ed, I'm going to dedicate my life to an underprivileged school in my neighborhood that needs my help." And I said, "What do you mean dedicate?" She said, "I'm going to work there every day." And I'm like, I'm such a small human being, such a useless.
What a beautiful
piece of
thing. What
gum,
a
So I mean,
you're being a little hard on yourself. But
there are people you meet in your life.
You're like, I stink.
There are people that you meet in your life that impact you that way. From talking to her on the phone for so many years, and then when I moved down here 12 years ago, she's impacted my life. Just the way she carries herself. So just an awesome grandmother,
Phyllis.
awesome mother, awesome. Yeah, go Phyllis. So this is really going to be exciting. I got a sneak preview of this yesterday from Cam Glover. For the very first time in my 40 plus years of being an Orkin man, we are going to have a commercial. Let me repeat that.
A commercial.
We're going to have a commercial that's going to run on TV that's being done inside a restaurant. And I'm like, what?
A commercial for commercial.
A commercial for commercial. It's going to start to run in about May. I said, "Cam, can I share it now?" And it's all puppeteers, and puppeteers running this rat. And this rat is like, I think they nicknamed him like Don Corleone. He's got this heavy-duty mafia-esque accent. It's super cool, very animated.
Squeak, squeak. What are you going to do for me?
Gonna be funny as all get out.
That's
pretty cool. So that's going to come out. The one thing about that was really cool. I was talking to Cam yesterday.
Nikki gave you a yay, and David gave you a woohoo.
Woohoo!
Brian with an
woohoo.
awesome. And apparently, you guys are excited about this.
That's
the most excited I've seen them.
Every meeting I go to, I'm up in Columbus, and they got Lorena there from marketing, and one of these knuckleheads said, "When are we going to see some commercials on TV? For commercial."
And by the way, I hear they invested sizably.
So here's what happened
in this commercial.
Crazy. We have forever and a day been shooting our commercials out in L.A., right? The ones you see on TV. We go out to the studios in L.A. and shoot them. They went to Budapest, Hungary to shoot these commercials. They saved $500,000. They said you could send 100 people to Budapest for the money it cost you to walk across one of those studio lots in L.A. So
wow.
we're being very mindful of
now
our
this
money.
isn't going to be one of those like cicada deals. Like they go
Stop.
into the
Stop.
They go into the
like that.
forest and they
About
record
the
cicadas with
Stop.
opera music. Sorry,
Victor,
sorry. Every time I hear Budapest, I think Green Acres and Zsa Zsa Gabor. Is that just me?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so a couple of things. I mentioned a couple of really big sales. There are 3 that are teed up and they're closed essentially. So starting April 1st, we're going to start the University of Kentucky. If you paid attention to your last campaign when Mike Palermo did the interview with the representative from E&I, that buying cooperative that's really focused on school systems, that's where that sale started. E&I came to us. One of their reps said, "University of Kentucky wants a bid between Michael Krause, Keith Cobert, and Brady Ronker." They locked that deal down. It's starting April 1st. It's starting out, folks, at $1.4 million. 1.4 with all the additional add-ons and all the stuff.
Holy buckets.
Get onto that as well. So,
nice.
So think about these campaigns that they're serving up to you. Man, if I'm an account manager out there, I'm jumping all over that E&I. It's all back on Rollins today. The videos there, the recordings there, all the charts, how to approach it. Man, get after that stuff in your space. Another monster sale, Sourcewell sale up in the Northeast, starting out at $2.5 million. Going to start May 1st, the Boston Airport. Sold by Jason Civittoni, Angie Almonte, and the whole crew up there. That whole crew up there collectively with Deborah locked that deal down. It's just crazy good. 2.5 million again to start. These are just to start these deals. And then Dave Gore and a bunch of folks out his way. We just recently landed. That's an April 1st start. We're trying to get into the system right now. We landed Six Flags, and in total with out
And that's nationwide.
nationwide. There's like 40 locations, 40 or 45 locations.
Wow.
And the cool thing about that is already, so you're going to have all this tack-on business. You know, they do a couple of them out in L.A. Chris Pierce sold a bunch of them out in L.A. I don't remember the names of them. But they all have these ancillary services. They got mosquito service. They got, I think they're treating sewers for rats, all this kind of stuff. So all these opportunities come up. And I heard last night that the first add-on, tack-on to that is like a $90,000 deal, like a $90,000 one-time or another service. So again, the account managers went and inspected all of them, priced them all up, and so that's like $6 million.
That's amazing deal.
It's dropped. So
Cassie's excited. She said, "Heck yeah."
Who's excited?
Cassie Honenberg, who was bored at the beginning.
Nice.
So
nice.
yeah.
Amen.
By the way, Aubrey Miller says Budapest.
I mean, there's comedians all over the house.
Like a rim shot. That was. I thought my game was weak. That was weak.
We need
But
Nunez.
I like it. I like it.
We need Nunez to come rescue us.
Oh, my God.
One of our top sales guys, one of our commercial guys out west. He's like a comedian. He goes on them cruise ships like you do, and he gets paid to just be the comedian. So maybe he can clean that all up. Maybe he can clean these jokes, add some real humor, some valued humor instead of all this. Whew, keep your day job, both of you. All right, so to roll on out of here, first thing I want to tell you is the whole idea behind these broadcasts is that you would do them in the branch. When we launched them like 3 years ago, I think we've lost sight of it, that you would hold them in the branch. The branch managers would bring their people in, and then you would sit together, you'd watch the broadcast. After the broadcast was over, you'd kick it among yourselves for 20, 30 minutes, and then send everybody on their way. So what I'm going to challenge, and it's probably been my fault about not getting the dates to you ahead of time. So we're going to fix that moving forward. The next commercial broadcast is going to be April 10th. So April 10th, mark your calendars. Branch managers, bring your folks in on April 10th. Buy them breakfast. Treat them right. Watch the broadcast as a team. Kick it around, and then go kick some tail out into the field. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair enough. We are going to leave you by trailing out our account manager winners that spent time in the Bahamar in the Bahamas. So appreciate all you're doing. Man, March has been phenomenal. Just keep that thing cranked up all the way through the rest of the year. Thank you all. Guys. Take care.